It's hard being an absolute beginner when you're trying to do sales, right? So I'm gonna tell you step by step what to do in what order if you want a business, whether it's in sales or you're working in sales or you wanna do something related. So first I'm gonna tell you something about my experiences. I started my sales in a gym, right? And the gym was very hard because I was a personal trainer, and not only was I a personal trainer, I was something called recovery, where you have to sell services, you can sell supplements. In the gym, I can sell anything, and I had to convince someone, basically, which is sales, to buy something, right? So I can get commission, right? So I realized people were more likely to really believe in me or buy something when they saw me as an authority figure. For example, when I was a personal trainer, whatever I said, people listened to me if I built trust with them. For example, you have a free session, right? And you're a personal trainer, they ask you a question, like, should I do this? And you be like, yeah, you should do this because XYZ. You give them a valid, he probably knows what he's doing. And let's say they have a problem, right? They do something wrong in this certain exercise, and you correct it, and after you correct it, they feel the difference. They're like, okay, this guy know what he's doing, right? Or if you're working at a nice gym or a gym that's in a good neighborhood, and they see you as a personal trainer, they automatically be like, okay, he probably knows something. I know he knows something because he's working here. Not anyone can work here, right? So that's what they're thinking. So once you put yourself as an expert, people start not worrying about how much experience you have. I did have an instance where people asked me, oh, how long have you been doing this? There was always questions. However, it was very few. Once they started seeing me, once they started seeing me training, they started taking me seriously. But when you first start as a beginner, no one's gonna want to work with you. Like they're gonna ask you how many experience. If you say you have 0 years, 0 months, like you have no experience at all, like, oh no, I'm okay, I'm actually gonna find someone else, right? They might be nice about it, but no one wants to work with a complete beginner. So in order to get your sales experience, you have to find something. I started at a gym. You can do gym, car sales, you can find somewhere, right? And you can also go online and start selling things, selling products. Just getting selling experience in general, right? It's easy, right? Everyone has sold something. I sold something eBay. I sold services. I sold products. Like I sold things online, like my online store. I sold something, right? So I sold a lot of things. So I have sales experience in various things, right? Obviously, I don't have 20 years of experience. I'm 22 years old. There's impossible, right? I still had things to do. Like I was in school. I didn't start doing sales until later. And you have to understand and accept that when you're a very beginner, people are not gonna want to work with you just because you don't have experience. I don't care how good your talk game is, how much you know, unless you sound very knowledgeable. But people are quick to judge, people are quick to ask questions. But you have to also think about it as this: people are spending money, right? Especially like my prices was 100 plus and up, right? And people were asking questions because my services was expensive, right? And even though I was a beginner in that gym, I presented myself as an expert. So that's what you need to do. You need to present yourself as an expert, which is by being knowledgeable in that field, right? Being knowledgeable in cars, in certain products, in certain services. If you know what you're saying, like for example, when I started in the gym, I was so skinny, but my knowledge, I was asking questions, I was saying things that sounded smart, but they were very basic. However, I presented myself as an expert, and people started asking me questions. Am I doing this right? Is this wrong? Can you help me? I don't know. I feel this pain when I'm doing an exercise a certain way. And I'm like, wow, someone's actually asking me, because I felt away because I'm like, man, I look young, I have a baby face, I'm skinny, no one's gonna take me seriously. But eventually people started looking at me as this person that they ask. The steps are, you get sales experience, then you start moving into content. I know a lot of y'all don't want to go to content. You're like, content? No, I don't want to do content, right? And if you don't want to do content, it's okay. But if you want to have the most income potential, this is the best framework. And why I say this is, this is like selling. You know how I'm explaining why you all should do this? This is basically sales. I'm explaining why you should go from sales in person to content online. And this is why. You have to do content because not only are you going to get paid from views, you're going to have a higher CPM because you're talking about money, you're talking about sales per 1,000 views, especially on YouTube, helping high paying people get more money. So people are more likely to spend much more money on your services versus personal training, because the thing with personal training is you can find a lot of affordable prices and get similar service. Obviously, if you pay more, you can get better personal trainers. However, when you're buying like mentoring program, like I have a mentoring program in the link, when you're buying services like that, you have to be careful because some people are good, some people are bad, some people scam, some people, do courses. But people know that if they pay or invest a certain amount of money in this person or this course, they can have a lot of benefits. They can reap a lot of benefits. They can start making more money. And then now they won't need that person because after a few months, they scaled their business from making 5 to 6, 7, 8, 10K. This is why going to content, putting yourself as an expert, people are more likely to believe what you're saying, and you don't have to do as much selling. Obviously, people are gonna hear their price, they're gonna be like, it's too expensive. But after hearing a certain amount of videos and hearing advice, and you can ask them, did my advice help? Did you listen to my videos? Did you watch my videos? Right? And if they're here in a call, they obviously need help. They're not here because they're bored. They're here because they want to take their business to the next level. And it makes it easier. Like I said, as an absolute beginner, the good thing with content is you don't have to know everything at first, right? All you have to do is use your experience, talk about your experience, and maybe think of objection. What is something they can ask? You can look it up. Okay, they might ask, they might say it's too expensive. What do I say? And then you can make a video on that. Or they might be like, oh, but I'm gonna choose someone else. Make a video on that. And then you learn as you make content because you're teaching people. You learn something more, or you learn it better when you actually teach it to somebody, right? You have some experience, then you start teaching the people, then you start, okay, this is something that they did wrong. I don't wanna make that mistake. I learned from a student of mine. You know why? Because as I was teaching, I learned something that I didn't even think of. And then after you pose yourself as an expert in content, you can start doing one-on-one mentoring, right? And it's all a funnel, right? The funnel is you start learning yourself, then you start teaching to people online, and then after online, you start mentoring people. And this 3-way is the best and fastest way to start your business in sales, or however you want to do it, right? Everyone has their own path, but it makes it easier. The more experience you have, you can kind of skip through content if you're that good. If you're a person that you don't like making content, you can kind of skip, but it's gonna be harder because everything is online. Your social media, everything is online. So if you're not using content, you're basically missing income, right? Because let's say your mentoring one-on-one program, which I'm about to talk about right now, is not going well. At least you're making content, you're getting views, and you have potential clients that watch your video that wants to go to your mentoring program. So basically, it's up to you how you want to do this mentoring program. For me, I basically just have one-on-one with people. So we would have like a consultation and then say the prices, and if they're like, okay, I want to do this, then it would be a one-on-one, however long, maybe 3 months, 6 months, helping them scale their businesses, helping them get better in sales, handling objections. Because to be honest, there's people that have money, they're willing to spend. However, they're gonna try to find every single reason to disqualify you. Oh, you're young, or you don't have that much experience, or you don't know what you're talking about, or you're too much money. They're gonna find every single reason. And if you can handle every single objection, then they're gonna leave. They'll be like, oh, I gotta think about it. What is there to think about, right? Let me help clarify any doubts you have. Let me highlight the benefits of my program. of how it's unique, because I realized the number one mistake is, and you're gonna handle this while you're doing sales or if you're doing one-on-one mentoring program, you're gonna be like, oh, I gotta think about it, I don't know, I will let you know. Someone says, I will let you know, don't let them go unless they're really, really trying to go, right? There's a difference between someone say, I will let you know, and they're not leaving, versus I'll let you know, no, I'm okay, I'm gonna let you know they're trying to leave right now. You don't want them to get to that point, because there was this person, this wife, she was like, oh, I gotta speak to my husband first. I'm like, oh, okay, you can go speak to your husband. I'm like, oh, she's gonna come back. She just gotta speak to her husband. I understand. She never came back. Every time they told me I gotta speak to someone, I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna speak to this, they never came back, right? The way that the wife says it to the husband might not sound convincing. He's gonna be like, how much? Oh, no, so expensive. No, we're good. Right? But if the husband and wife were there, both there, one of them were there, and you convince and you say, how much money can you put right now, and you can get them to invest at that call right now, then they're invested because they already spent money. Usually when someone has money invested in something, they want to keep using it. I'm paying $40 in a gym. I'm not gonna let my 40 go for a whole year without using it. I'm gonna use it or cancel it. One of those things. Yes, that was the framework, and if you do these 3 steps, you have a higher income potential.